Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this August 15th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we are on the EOA network. And that link tree can be found at eoa.network, the URL. And here in a little bit, we're going to have Eric Valentine and Bob Carter will be with us talking about a recent hiking trip that they went on. And that might not seem notable, except that both of them are in their 80s.
Dang, just throw them under the bus like that.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Gabe yesterday. It's like, yeah, they're going on hikes you and I wouldn't go on, man. So yeah. Yeah.
Well, at least not. I'll do it as long as the weather's nice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind it, but I'm not in very good shape, so it wouldn't be probably very fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
First Friday.
Yeah.
Finally. But there is no first Friday this week for me because I'm working Saturday, and then I'm dog sitting on Sunday.
Are you?
Well, if it's like last time,
yeah,
it would be amazing. That dog didn't bark, and usually he barks like a lot when my parents leave. So hopefully it's.
So hopefully, like
nice and smooth.
He's taking the chill pill again.
I mean, yeah. There's been times where the neighbors have messaged me like, "Dude, are your parents around? Like the dogs?" I'm like, "I'm here. I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to figure this guy out. Like those dogs are hard-headed, man. That breed. What are they? They're Basset Hounds.
Yeah.
Ooh, they are hard-headed." BC, how do you feel about like urns and ashes? Like, like people having like, ashes in their house in an urn or whatever.
Yeah. How do I feel about
would you keep them around? Like, are you an urn
Well,
kind of person?
No, probably not. Partially because I think that there is some in my life and when I've experienced the death of others, there's some benefit in disposing of them or having them have a final resting place.
Yeah.
Maybe that's that. Yeah, whether that's a cemetery or dump them somewhere. But I know of people who I was talking to a friend the other day, and he's in his 70s. He's in his 70s, and he still has his father in the closet in an urn. And so
You want to know why I asked that question? Because I was thinking about one of the guys that works next door. His grandmother passed away, and we were talking about how like their culture in Mexico, they don't do a lot of cremation. And I was telling him when I was married, my ex-wife, her grandparents, they were both cremated, and then her mom's husband, her stepdad, basically was cremated as well. Yeah. And we were tasked with spreading the ashes.
Yeah. And
Grandma and Grandpa were mixed in one jar, and Papa was mixed in the other jar, and they were in our car for over a year. Over a year, BC. We had 3 people's ashes underneath the seat in the Suburban.
Well, and I think that is probably, that happens a lot, whether they're in a closet or they're in your car, or it's like, here, you take care of it, and then it's like, you never find the right place.
Well, we went to the coast 3 times in between in that year, and just forgot. You know what I mean? Got busy with the kids, and like, oh man, Grandma and Grandpa are still under the seat. Like, we got to get that taken care of. It took over a year to finally figure it out. Yeah, I'm not like creeped out by it. But I wouldn't keep them like, how people keep like their dog on their mantle or whatever. Nah, that's not.
Yeah.
No. All of my pets I've buried myself.
Yeah.
And that's just been how I've handled. That's closure for me. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's the word, is closure. It's just like everybody finding their own way. But yeah, just it not having a final place, that would, for me, it would just feel open-ended. Feel like, it's not done yet.
When I die, I would prefer to be cremated. I don't want to take up space. But I'll just leave it up to my kids.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you want to do with me, do it. Like, if you want to take me to the mall and flush me down the toilet, go ahead. There's a movie where that happens. That's why I said that. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. They flush mom down the toilet.
That sounds
in the mall. Yeah.
That sounds like really rude. But
well, I'm not.
They don't
it's
care.
probably not going to hurt my feelings, right? Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. They have an awesome selection of made in USA furniture, from recliners to mattresses and more. Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Big Red Rocking Chair on Elm, off Adams in LeGrand. This last week, our community lost a legend. He was not only a great coach, a teacher, but he was also a great person as well. Anytime I saw the guy, the first thing out of his mouth was asking me how my family was. And he was very influential in not only my mom's career, but dozens of people in this county, and not only in this area, in other areas as well. The picture of him here is after LeGrand won the football state championship in 2019. I was on the field with him that night, and you could feel how much it meant to him as he was involved as a coach. A huge fan of athletics at both LHS and EOU for decades. Orv Goddard, you lived a long life and influenced way more people than I could ever mention. Rest in peace, my friend. Funeral services for Orv will be held at the EOU football stadium on Saturday, September 7th at 2 p.m. A reception will follow at the Union County Fairgrounds in the 4-H building. Moving on, here are the first games for all of the sports teams at LHS. Football kicks off August 30th, 6 p.m. Community Stadium versus Astoria. Volleyball kicks off the next day, August 31st. The time is to be determined. It's the Hannah Cashel Memorial Tournament. Boys soccer, August 30th, before football at 12 at Community Stadium. Girls soccer in between boys soccer and football at 2 at Community Stadium. And they're both playing Junction City, and cross country has yet to put any events up on OSAA's website. And then Imbler football will kick off their season on August 30th in Elgin. Time is to be determined, which will also be Elgin's first game of the year. I'm just going to tell you about all the small schools in the valley too. Cove will play on August 30th as well at a to be determined time versus Sherman in the Dufur Classic on the road. Union will get a late start with their first game on the OSAA page not until September 13th at 7 p.m. and they'll be at home versus Sherman. And finally, Powder Valley starts their season on the road at Pilot Rock on September 5th at 7 p.m. In the next couple weeks, there's going to be a lot of fall sports interviews for EOU and the high school. We're going to kick it off with women's soccer and then EOU volleyball. The women's soccer team received votes in the national rankings, and EOU volleyball started the season in the first coaches poll at number 3 in the country, which is pretty exciting. They're getting ready to go to Caldwell, and then they go on a road trip to Texas. And when they come back that following Monday, I have a couple of interviews that'll be coming out with volleyball girls, so it's pretty exciting. And then finally, the QR code on the screen is for Cade's Courage, and it's the GoFundMe account for the McKinley family. Cade's a 3-sport high school athlete at LeGrand. He was recently diagnosed with a form of Ewing sarcoma cancer, and the family needs some help. So if you have the means, there's the QR code for the GoFundMe. If you're not a GoFundMe person, go to U.S. Bank right here in town. The account is set up under Cade's Courage or the McKinley family, and if you have the means to donate, make a donation. It's much appreciated. I also have some of these bracelets right here left. They're free. They say Cade's Courage on them. They have a tiger. They have a baseball. You got this, and wrestlers, and a cross. And they're pretty cool. And they're free. So if you want one, give me a message or stop by and grab one. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress, 215 Elm in LeGrand, or you can call them at 541-963-5440.
Cool. Good stuff. Thank you. And I saw Arnie Peasley the other day, I was telling you, and what's the first name? The Peasley kid who's playing? Andrew, yeah. So Andrew, that New York is playing Carolina
on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah, and he was going to that game. So
he moved up to 3 on their depth chart because Jordan Travis got hurt. But I was looking at the stats and about how, and hopefully the Jets are one of those teams this year. Only 13 NFL teams kept 3 quarterbacks last year after the preseason. So That's a little less than half of the teams kept a third quarterback. It's not super popular now because there's usually a guy on the team, whether it be the punter, the kicker, a receiver, somebody that can play quarterback
in a pinch.
So they don't want to pay 3 guys because they're pretty high paid positions.
Right.
But I think Andrew's got a shot. I mean, he played really good last Saturday, and he was like 8 of 11. He had a touchdown pass, like almost 100 yards. His QB rating was like 125 or something like that, which is very high.
Yeah.
We'll see. He's got to do it every week.
Yeah, there's still hope.
There is hope. And even if he doesn't make this team and just goes to the practice squad or whatever, he's got a chance at getting signed by another team. You know what I mean? So somebody's going to be looking for a quarterback, and if he does well, I mean, there's a real chance that he makes an NFL team during the regular season.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, each little step that he accomplishes is like super cool for our little community.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Very.
So, hey, let's look at the weather graphic. See what we got. 76 today, 50 tonight, and looks like 82 tomorrow, 94 on Saturday, and then back in the 80s through Tuesday. Looks like it's still going to be pretty dry. Not much chance of rain. But
I mean, there's some rain. It's 52% humidity today.
Yeah.
Outside of that, though, it's gonna.
Yeah. So, yeah. So anyhow, so that's kind of what we're looking at. I want to mention I didn't pull up that video real quick, Gabe, of the high school football. If you have that available, we're going to be doing the LeGrand, Baker City, and Pendleton home football games. And if you are a business and you want the exposure of one of those teams or one of those towns or all 3 of those towns, it's a great opportunity. It's the home games that we are streaming, and that begins on the 30th of this month. There's 2 games simultaneously that night. And if you want more information about that, go to EOAHSsports.com. EOAHSsports.com. All right, we will be right back with Eric Valentine and Bob Carter. Welcome to Creating Memories for Disabled Children at beautiful Wallowa Lake, Oregon. Over the years, we have offered families of children with disabilities a free vacation at our beautiful camp properties. These getaways are a respite for families who often deal with an increased amount of emotional stress, financial hardships, and isolation. At Creating Memories, these families are able to relax in the knowledge that their child is loved and that their efforts are seen. Since 2018, we have completed a cabin renovation every 2 years, continually increasing our capacity to serve. We have fully renovated 3 cabins to become fully accessible lodging for families, including full kitchens and wheelchair-accessible bathrooms. We now turn our focus to the lodge building at the Creating Memories camp. Our vision for the lodge includes gatherings, networking, education, connections, community, and fellowship. We want it to be a place for families to share their struggles and joys, their needs and their knowledge, their setbacks and their celebrations. We are creating memories for disabled children, and our mission is to do just that. right, we are back with Bob Carter and Eric Valentine. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, just fine.
Good, good. And Eric, you've been on the show before with us. Most recently after your fall. Right. Not only the hike that you made, but the hike that you made down the edge of the hill. Yeah.
That was more a tumble than a hike.
Yeah.
So do you call that a hike or do you call that a spill?
Well,
yeah, spill.
let's just say that once you got to the bottom, it was a journey after that, right? Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and thankfully you've recovered, and I mean I think the last time you were here, you were still
had the neck brace on.
Had the neck brace on. You were limited.
Back
So
brace.
yeah, when you were looking at us, you were kind of turning your head back and forth,
Right.
and so
Turning
yeah.
my body.
Turning your body. Yeah.
Turn my body to rotate my head.
Yeah, but you guys have been hiking partners for a long time. I'm
Yes.
presuming, right? How did that start? I mean, but Bob, you were not on that hike with him when he fell by himself.
I asked Bob to go with me, but he had another commitment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah,
why
tell
don't
us
you talk about
Bob, how long have you guys been hiking?
How
and
we planned
yeah.
our original
Well,
forays.
we were sitting in Rotary Club together about 2003,
Right.
and Eric said he'd like to hike the Pacific Crest Trail in Oregon, and I said, well, let's do it together. And from that point on, we've taken a lot of hikes together.
Yeah. And so let's talk about that. Did you do that in stints, or I mean, that sounds interesting just in and of itself. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, we section hiked the Pacific Crest Trail. We do just a few miles every summer.
Wait a minute, it wasn't a few miles, Bob. Come on now. We did generally about generally about 100 miles a stretch, simply because you have to have food drops, it's called, if you're going distances. And generally about every 100 miles we could set up a food drop. And if you do 20 miles a day, then it only takes you 5 days to get to your next food, which means you don't have to carry as much weight, you don't have to carry as much food. So when we had young legs, we would hike far and at a reasonably good pace. But it was pretty much, we'd start at, about 8 in the morning or so and stop at about 6.
Yeah, but what you call good legs or young legs, you both were in your 60s then?
Right.
Yes, in our
Yeah.
60s and 70s.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a little, even that's, yeah, those aren't really young legs, but
We've done about 1,200 or so miles in Oregon, Washington, and California doing this section hiking. So we've done about half of the Pacific Crest Trail.
yeah. And so when you do that, you go and you do, I mean, how many hundreds of miles would you do at a time before you came back and did the next part?
Yeah, well, again, it would depend on the particular stretch we'd selected. I mean, it would be anywhere from 50 to, at the most, 150 on a section. And then we did the John Muir Trail in California, which is part of the Pacific Crest Trail, and that was about 200 miles.
Yeah. So, Bob, Eric, I know you and Meg have been hiking for a long time. Did you hike? I mean, were you a hiker before this?
Yes, yeah, I've done a lot of hiking over the years. I've had several hiking friends and done a lot of hiking here in the Pacific Northwest and into Wyoming and Montana and Idaho.
And so then you guys finally joined forces or started doing these hikes together in the early 2000s then?
Yep, 2003.
Wow.
And what's interesting, Bob and his wife Jerry, they've done lots of backpacking together, and like Meg and me in our younger years, and so kind of to come together with very similar backgrounds of kind of solo hiking when we were in our 30s, 40s, and 50s just on our own, and then finally merging our love of the outdoors in 2003.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now, I intersect with both of you on a regular basis because we're all in Rotary together, and Eric, you and one of the other members have this ongoing brag or bet or so that like, and most recently since your fall, then it's like, okay, this is your voice, if I return from this hike, then you owe the club $5 or something.
Right.
Yeah. And that's been kind of a running gag that's been going on. Yeah.
Yes.
And so, no, how fun, how cool it is. And again, admirable that, So, well, let's take a look at, so then this most recent hike, and is this really the first big hike that you've made since your fall?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So then this recent one is to Bonnie Lakes.
Right.
Yeah. And pull up, let's show where that is, Gabe, where that, pull up our map here. So you can see Wallowa Lake here. And then Bonnie Lake is where that pin is. And then I think you guys left out of the Tenderfoot Trailhead. Is that right?
Well, close to it, yes.
Yeah.
Basically, you go to Joseph and then go north toward on the Amnaha Highway and several miles, and then you take the what's called the Loop Road, which connects to Halfway, and at the just past what's called the Salt Creek Summit, which is a major winter gathering area for cross-country skiers and snowmobilers. Just past the Salt Creek Summit, a gravel road goes off to the right, and you drive that about 3 miles to the trailhead.
Yeah. And so then this area is kind of, as the bird flies between Joseph and Halfway, it's kind of laying right out there.
It's in the Amnaha River drainage, basically.
Yeah, and all right, well, cool. Well, now that we kind of know where it is that you guys went, which you presented these same pictures at Rotary not too long ago, and we didn't have those, and so it had me. I struggled a little bit. Okay, now where is this? So
Yes, okay.
So this is the day of. You guys are getting ready to take off, and you were doing the responsible thing and registering that.
Right.
Hey,
The Forest Service wants to keep track of how many people are using the wilderness, so
yeah.
it's a free permit that you get, and it's just done for both their tracking of people, plus it's a safety feature if we got lost.
Yeah.
Hopefully there'd be this registration and people would know where we're going, but of course our wives knew where we were going.
Don't you get hot wearing all those clothes? This is like middle of the summer. It had to be 190 degrees
that's
up
a good
there.
question. You're never cool, whether
Right.
you're wearing a long sleeve shirt or not. The long sleeve shirt is nice both for sun protection and mosquito protection.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. And so then just tooling through, you guys were on the hike. Now you were talking about the flowers. I mean,
Right.
Yeah. And most people know you, some people know you as a judge, that you were here a judge in the area for more than 20 years, right?
Yes.
And then also that you are an avid photographer. You've been taking photos. So, and there were beautiful flowers to take pictures of along the way.
Yeah. The advantage of hiking, backpacking in July is that's when the wildflowers are really peaking, is in the month of July. The drawback of hiking in July is simply mosquitoes. So it's a trade-off.
Yeah. So then along the way, and talk about this burn patch that you went through.
Bob, why don't you
Yeah.
could talk about that?
Well, this area recently burned, and there was a pretty good area in there that burned. And after the burn, you can see a lot of vegetation coming back in again, and the flowers were really nice in there.
Yes, what's interesting, that fire was in 1989, and we talked about our wives and backpacking. That Meg and I had backpacked in there in 1988, a year before the fire. When did you and Jerry backpack in?
Probably about 1985.
Yeah. So both Bob and I and our wives had been there, and Bob and I had the same kind of memory of the trail. I remember Bob and I in June talking about doing this hike, and I remembered with Meg it was just a walk in the park, so to speak. It's 5.5 miles into the Bonnie Lakes area. There are 2 lakes there, and it was such a simple hike then in our 40s. But you know, they talk about geologic time taking millions of years, and I think, however, the tectonic plates had slightly shifted, and it was much steeper and longer.
So it was, how much elevation was there in that at 5 miles?
What is it, Bob?
1,200 miles or 1,200 feet?
About, yeah, it's only 1,200 feet, so it's
1,200 feet up?
yeah, but
Okay.
it's basically gradual.
Yeah. But still a lot more strenuous going in than coming out, probably.
Sure.
Yes.
And so again, just some of the fire pictures that come back to these photos, Gabe, and then some of the flowers. Now, is there some area, or do you get out of the timber at times? I mean,
It was very interesting. Yeah, it's mixed terrain. Most of it is meadows. We were fortunate. The burn, you go through an extensive burn area, but at Bonnie Lakes itself, it was still, the fire did not reach Bonnie Lakes, so that was all nicely green and forested. But well, I got to tell you, hold this picture.
okay, yeah.
Bob's amazing. Bob's 2 years older than I am. You know, I'm 81. Bob's 83. I don't know if I think it's probably because of my fall. I'll have to verify this next year. But I looked at logs and big rocks like that and figured, gee, I don't have the balance to do that now. So Bob's balance, he's still a ballerina, so to speak. He walked over fallen logs to cross creeks and skipped over the rocks, but I decided the safest thing for me to do was just to wade. So
you'd change your shoes and
well, I should have. Well, I didn't have an alternate pair of shoes because they weigh, that's extra weight.
yeah, right, yeah.
So I, wet boots with wool socks are not too bad. So anyway, there were about 5 stream crossings?
I think there was about 5. 4 of them were fairly difficult.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we have a picture. Now this is a picture Bob took of you hiking, right?
Right.
Yeah. Normally you were the one that was.
No, Bob takes a lot of. That's the great thing with Bob. When I hike with most people, they're a little impatient with my slowness because I'm taking pictures all the time. But Bob and I it's just a remarkable time and remarkable relationship because Bob loves to take pictures as well. So he's very friendly. And then this is a digression. What did I do with you, Bob, on the Pacific Crest Trail? What'd you have to do?
Well, I learned how to hike the trail 3 or 4 times. The eye angle wasn't quite right, so do it again.
Yeah. So I'd send Bob back and forth on the trail just to get the right shot. And I will say, Bob, you've been published almost a dozen times, I think, pictures of you on the Pacific Crest Trail. When I asked my wife, Meg, to do it once or twice, she'll tell me, Eric, I'm not Saint Bob.
Yeah, I'm not going to tolerate this. Yeah. Right. Well, yeah. So this shows a little bit of the elevation, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
does. There was one final steep stretch. I kept anticipating arriving at the lake, and so each time we crested over a little hill, I thought the lake's going to be there, but it wasn't. And then we had one last very steep stretch to come up, and right here you can see it. And as I go back and look at this, it really was not that bad, but it seemed bad at the time because at least I was tired. We'd been on the trail for about 3 hours at that point.
And this was, the plan was, and you spent the night there. You
Yes,
went in,
yes.
made camp. So then this must be at the lake.
Yeah, that's Big Bonnie Lake, so to speak. That's Elephant Head in the foreground. And you can see the sky is reddish. That was smoke from fires out of Baker and Malheur counties.
Yeah, because this was not that long ago, maybe a month ago.
That was mid-July.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, so here's one of those
there's
crossings.
Bob balancing, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Bob's amazing.
I'm sorry, that's a little nuts right there.
Yeah.
I look at that, Bob, and I just get vertigo.
Yeah. Again, some of the flowers were just in full bloom there.
Yes, right.
Yeah. It's another one of the bridges. This one looks like fairly maintained little
Yeah,
bridge.
right.
That's a good bridge.
But they weren't all like that.
No.
Yeah.
Only 2 bridges out of, 7 stream crossings.
Yes.
Well, yeah. And another crossing. All right. This looks like this is kind of, you guys are hiking through that burn area. Was
Right.
that, so you guys had both been through there when it hadn't been burned?
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
It's amazing to reflect back and try to, I don't have a specific recollection of these, what this was like in 1988, but certainly it's just sort of hard to imagine this being green trees.
Right.
But, it was solid green, obviously, back in before 1989.
Yeah.
Was the ground wet in that picture, or does that just look like
No,
it?
there were places where there were seeps, and
Oh, okay.
we were fortunate too. Although we were in that 90 to 100 degree weather mode, just when it was starting to really get hot in July. Going in, we had a very gentle rainfall, and it was cloudy, so it was easier going in with the kind of the cooler weather than it was coming out. Coming out, it was quite hot, but going in, it was nice.
I think I'd rather have it the other way around. The heat coming in, the cool coming out, because I feel
But you're
like
going uphill when it's
you're a little.
going
There's
in.
more adrenaline going in. You know what I mean? Like you're like, yeah, we're going
okay.
camping, and then you have to come out, and you're like,
okay.
oh, it's 100 degrees.
Sure. That's a good point.
All right. And this is one of the lakes. You're right. The entrance of one of the lakes.
Yeah, this is near where we camped, and what I've found as a photographer, you just never can anticipate what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And it's just astounding to be in this relatively remote country and find a picture like this,
Yeah.
find a moment in the atmosphere like this.
Yeah. No, that's just. And
Do you tote a bit? You're like, do you bring your camera with you, or you take?
Well,
that?
this is all my iPhone.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
yeah.
I wouldn't. Nowadays, there's no point in carrying a
No,
big camera.
the only point of carrying a DSLR or a variation of it, or, carrying a camera, with the iPhone, you've got to take independent batteries. You've got to charge them overnight, so you're carrying extra weight.
Yeah.
Whereas with a camera, you can have extra small batteries with you, and so you don't have to worry about recharging a camera,
Right.
so to speak. I mean, the lithium batteries for a camera are very lightweight.
Yeah. And those, yeah, and the moments like that where the sun is peeking through the clouds, it only lasts.
No,
It's very fast. Yeah.
You gotta be there.
Yep. It just takes a minute.
So that picture there shows you the red sun. It's reflected,
Yeah.
but the smoke had created that red
Yeah.
disc there.
Yep. And then
That's
you
in
said
the morning. That's in the morning on Bonnie Lakes, and looking toward a place called is that Tenderfoot Pass we're looking at, Bob? Or,
Tenderfoot Pass, and then Dollar Lake's on the other side.
and then on beyond is Aneroid Lake. So you can actually, if you wanted, if you had somebody to meet you at Wallowa Lake, you could you could hike from Bonnie Lake, go over that pass, drop down to Dollar Lake, then drop down to Aneroid Lake, and come out at Walava Lake.
Oh, okay. So then this is looking kind of northwest a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Pretty.
The water's so still.
Yeah, it's just,
Yeah, it's always remarkable to wake up on a lake and see it smooth with no ripples.
You guys bring fishing poles in there?
No,
No.
we're not fisher
No,
folk.
no fishing? That'd be the only reason why I'd want to.
yeah. Did you see many people in there? Do you have any?
There, we were the only ones camped there. We passed, let's see, we passed one couple that were coming out from having camped overnight, and then as we were coming out, we passed what, one or two couples?
Yeah, there was one other couple coming in. Yeah,
Yeah,
from
camp
Idaho.
overnight.
Yeah. Wow.
Plus, some people just do it in a day hike.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the
Close
end.
with a
the end of
flower picture there.
Yeah, that's the end of the photos. But man, what a. So, have you had? This is an awkward question. I don't know how else to ask it. But I mean, do you ever run into people on the trail and they look at you like, "What are you two dudes doing out here by yourselves?" I mean, have
Well, I think one couple were impressed that we were still going at our age.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they looked us over pretty carefully.
Yeah.
no, that is like super remarkable. And
Well, yeah, and we walk a lot with our wives and we hike. In general, I work out with a personal trainer, and if you stay in shape, you can do things like this.
yeah,
We don't go as far, but we still go out. We still go.
yeah. Well, and then recently you made a trip with one of your sons, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I went with younger son Michael about 10 days ago, and Russ West and Mark Miller led Boy Scout Troop 514 on a 30-mile hike in the Eagle Cap Wilderness, and I went with him. We started out together with Michael. I talked my son into going with me because Meg won't let me hike alone anymore, and I knew I wasn't going to do the whole hike with the scouts, so I needed Michael to be with me at the point I turned around and get me back to the trailhead. So yeah, we went out together.
Yeah. Well, and that was, and you have two sons, and both of them are in the medical field, right? Is that
Right.
Yeah.
Older son is an emergency medicine doctor, and Michael went to law school and had a career as a prosecutor back in New Hampshire, and left that and went into nursing. So he's a nurse now.
Yeah.
So I'm well taken care of.
Yeah. And you also have a daughter too. If I'm no, I'm
Bob
just,
has the daughter who's
okay.
Bob's daughter is a nurse. So
Okay. So you both have medical professionals that are peeking over your shoulder all the time.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, telling us what to do.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, and I know that my middle daughter is a nurse, and she's continually texting me about my health or lack
Various
thereof.
issues,
Yeah.
yes.
So have you guys I mean, if you had to guess how many miles you have hiked together, what would that be?
It'll be a lot. Never
Be a
really
lot.
thought about it.
Yeah, no, we really haven't. Bob's very good at journaling, so we've got. It helps me refresh my memory when Bob shares his journal, because I think you've got probably journals of most every hike
hikes.
you've taken, don't
Every
you, Bob?
hike, daily. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bob, what's probably one of your most favorite stories to recount as you think about different things?
Well, it's hard to say for sure on stories, but I will say that probably the best adventure we had was a John Muir Trail in California. That was a 200-mile hike, and it was truly spectacular. Yeah, we really enjoyed that.
Yes.
And what made that?
It's just the scenery is just absolutely outstanding. on the John Muir Trail.
John
Muir.
Muir Trail.
Muir.
Muir.
You know John Muir from the
Okay.
discovered Yosemite. No, he didn't
Okay.
discover Yosemite,
Okay,
but he
thank you, yeah.
lived in Yosemite for a long time.
Yeah.
What's interesting, you know, and that goes through the Sierra Nevada mountains. You're going in the far back country of Yosemite and Sequoia and Kings Canyon. You know, most people come into those areas from the west and maybe just stay with the big trees or with the waterfalls. But those national parks, the far east parts of them are just very rugged, very wild. The Sierra Nevada mountains are beautiful, but they're not friendly. You really realize you're on your own there. And even though the National Park Service has backcountry rangers scattered every so many hundreds of miles, well, not hundreds, but 50 miles apart, you've got to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And I think of those mountains, and they're so photographic, but boy, they're tough mountains. And as I say, if you don't know what you're doing, you're in potential trouble.
Yeah. And Bob, you said you had hiked in Wyoming also, right?
Right.
Where at in Wyoming?
The Wind River Range primarily, 3 different times.
Okay.
And then a little further north up in the Beartooth Mountains.
Okay. And I know both of those. I grew up in Casper, Wyoming.
Okay,
Yeah,
you know
and,
about them.
Yeah, and our the kid camp that I went to as a kid was up in the Wind River Mountain
was it
Range.
really?
And yeah,
Okay.
and yes, and all of my family lives right there at the base of the Wind Rivers. So yeah, so that's there's a lot of fondness. But yeah, that's different terrain.
It is.
It's drier.
It is.
Yeah, I remember when I first came to Oregon, and it's like, wow, this is what underbrush is. You know? Yeah. It's like in Wyoming you got trees, but there's not a lot of undergrowth just because there's not the moisture to support it. So, yeah.
What's the craziest thing you guys have seen hiking? Like the strangest?
That's a
Because I know, like I lived in California during college and grew up there till I was 12, and hiking in like Southern California, you see a lot of really strange things. Believe it or not, what's the craziest thing you guys have seen?
Boy, that's a great question. I'm going to have to really think that over. I can't come up with. Can you come up with something?
I can't come up with anything, but one of the more interesting things that we had happen to us, we were hiking up in Washington and we were in the rain and we were very wet. And we came down to Stevens Pass and we found this sign down there on a board, and it was a hiker angel and so we called them up. And so they came up, picked us up, took us down to their house, fed us,
Oh, nice!
did all of our laundry.
Wow.
That was really nice.
What
one
about
shot.
wild animals? What have you seen?
Well, tell them about hiking in Idaho there in the Seven Devils and leaving your shirt out. Was that in the Seven Devils?
The Seven Devils, I washed my shirt, hung it on the tent, and the goat came down at night and chewed holes in it. They liked the salt in it, I think.
Wow. Any scary animals? Bears, cougars?
Nope.
No.
Nope, we've not had anything exciting. Sorry, you know,
Pretty
we're pretty
fortunate.
dull hikers, aren't we, Bob?
Right.
You know, we haven't had any big wild animal encounters other than having a shirt eaten a bit.
Well, and other than your fall, have you had any serious incidents that
Nope.
you?
No.
Yeah,
Never have.
Never have.
yeah, and that in itself is just amazing. You know.
Right.
What do you carry for protection? Bear spray, pistol?
Nope.
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 You hike the Pacific Crest Trail and you don't carry anything?
Nope.
Nope.
Wow.
Well, yeah. What's interesting, they've introduced, and I'm very opposed to it and disappointed in it, they've introduced grizzly bears to the North Cascades National Park. So I don't know if with grizzly bears, if we were in grizzly bear country, we would definitely carry bear spray.
Yeah.
When you hike the John Muir Trail, the National Park Service requires that you take what's called a bear canister to put your food in.
Yeah.
Because obviously the bears know the hikers are there, but we didn't run into any bear. We saw a bear off in a distance, but we we didn't have any direct confrontations or anything.
Last week, my son was on a houseboat on Shasta Lake, and a bear came on. They were docked at night, and a bear came on the boat and got
really?
in the cooler.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, on the boat. That would be wild, man. I would be more worried. Like the Pacific Coast Trail is not. I mean,
Crest.
yeah, Pacific Crest Trail. My bad. It's not exactly safe anymore.
Oh, well, in what sense?
There's a lot of
Animals or
stories about people
Getting
going
mugged
missing,
or- yeah.
getting mugged, getting robbed, getting
Yeah.
you know what I mean. There's a lot of stories about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be, like I don't know, I would be kind of edgy about it. Maybe that's just me though.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think that's a warning that everybody has to take account of. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for
Let
being
me just
here.
make a pitch.
Yeah,
to,
please go
pitch
ahead.
to your audience. There's, if you want to do the Eagle Cap Wilderness, do any hikes in it, even just day hikes. There's an excellent book. Fred Barstad lives in Enterprise, and this book, Hiking Oregon's Eagle Cap Wilderness. It's a Falcon guide. It's in its 4th edition now. So, if you want to do find out what the trails are and pick a trail that would suit your abilities, that's an excellent guidebook.
So does that make it into the backpack, or that's what you
Oh,
review
no,
ahead
no.
of time?
If we feel we need something, we just copy it and take a couple pages of that we've copied off.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
Yeah. So what
exactly.
what do you eat when you're out like that? I mean,
Go ahead, Bob.
That's a good
Yeah.
question.
Well, it's basically freeze-dried food.
okay.
Do you do it yourself? That's the
Yes.
question.
Oh, yeah. Keep it very simple.
But you
Freeze-dried
do freeze dry it yourself.
No,
you just
we,
buy it?
We buy Mountain House, and there's Nature's Pantry, and there's some other stuff. It's really not too bad.
Yeah, it's
Boy, when
really
you get
improved
done
since the early days, hasn't
Yeah.
it?
Once we get out from a hike, we always find a good restaurant.
Yeah,
We found some
afterwards.
good ones.
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
you get some real food. Yeah. Those freeze
real
dried
food.
ice cream sandwiches only get you so far. I know you've had one of those.
Yeah, but
Those
that's the intense backpacking that not everybody knows. You know that
Right.
where you're weighing. I mean, like when you had holes in your shirt, did you only have one shirt?
I had one shirt, but it was still wearable.
Okay, yeah. So that's,
had a
yeah, so,
t-shirt,
yeah. So that's the part of the story that a lot of people won't get is like you only take what it is that you need, and and
Right.
Well, you bring up a good point, Brent, and that is earlier in my backpacking career, I'd carry 45 to 55 pounds. And
Yeah.
of course, I was younger, but in the late 90s, early 2000s, lightweight backpacking really came on board, and my pack now weighs 22 ounces as opposed to 5
22
pounds.
ounces
Yeah.
packed. Or
No.
Okay, sorry, the pack
The
itself.
pack itself.
Okay.
And then
Less than
I can
2
remember when I was doing the heavy duty backpacking, I hear about these hikers, backpackers who cut the handles off their toothbrushes to save weight. And we started doing section hiking and watching our weight. And I are one now. I cut off the handle of my toothbrush. 1 ounce here and 1 ounce there, and
Made
you've got a
yourself an old
pound.
jailhouse toothbrush.
So how much does your pack normally,
I
weigh?
try to keep it right around 25 pounds.
Yeah.
So about 20 pounds less than when you were younger.
Yeah, exactly.
About half,
Yeah.
roughly.
And I mean, what that did too is, I could hike lots of miles with that heavier pack with younger legs, but then going lightweight enabled me to do the same number of miles even though I was older.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got one more question, and you guys can both answer this. Why? Why do you hike? Like, what is it?
Go ahead, Bob.
I don't know. I think maybe you're born with it. I've always liked the outdoors. I've done mountain climbing and hiking, and ever since I was a kid, So it's been just something
Just
I've always
ingrained.
wanted to do.
Did mom and dad hike? Did
Not really.
you just kind of
No, I
caught
didn't.
on to it and fell in love with it?
That's right.
What about you?
Yeah, my parents didn't hike. We had a trailer, And yeah, that's a good question. I just felt really drawn to the outdoors, to the beauty. I think backpackers have to be basically a bit of a masochist. You have to be willing to endure the pain to get to a place of great and deep joy and contemplation.
Makes sense.
But that's a good question. I don't know quite. It's something I just felt drawn to. But Bob, let me kind of brag about Bob. I don't know how many of your listeners, your viewers, have belonged to the REI co-op. I mean, I joined it in 1970, and my numbers, you have these numbers that are well high in the millions now. And I was always proud that I had 168,865. So 168,000 is my number. So what's your REI number, Bob?
Well, when you're hikers, with serious hikers, everybody likes to compare their REI numbers. And I joined REI, I believe, about 1960 when I was still in high school. And generally, I can beat everybody on low numbers. Mine's 22123.
22123.
Easy number to remember too.
Right, yeah. 22,000. I mean, just an amazing number.
Right. Wow.
And the good thing about Bob, I'd be really kind of curious. REI ought to publish something, a list of everybody, say, under 50,000, because, with Bob being 83 now,
right.
You're probably in the top 500 of low numbers. I don't know.
Probably, I don't know.
So how long have you journaled? I mean, that's kind of interesting too. Journal. I mean, do you journal outside of hiking, or do you journal for hiking and only? And when did you start doing
Well,
that?
I did a lot of journaling when I was working, just to keep track of everything. But then after I retired, I just been journaling just to keep my mind working and.
And when you journal, is it like a diary, or is it like the facts of we went this far or we did this?
It's more like a daily activity thing, and certain things happen, that record.
Yeah. So like we crossed 7 streams, and one of them I had to, okay. Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Nothing.
No, I mean that would, for your kids, that would be.
The kids can have them.
Yeah. That would be kind of an amazing thing to talk about that journey, so those trips. So
That would be cool.
Well, hey, thank you guys for being with us today. Thanks for taking the time, and when I hear things that like, oh, that's interesting, for me it's like, well, people on the show would probably enjoy hearing about that too, and so
We hope so.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
You want to get us out?
Yeah, on this day, August 15th, 1620, the Mayflower sets sail from Southampton, England with 102 pilgrims on board. 1911, on this day, Procter & Gamble. I did not know that Procter & Gamble created Crisco. Did you know that? Procter & Gamble created Crisco.
I mean, I think I did know. I don't know.
On this day in 1945, the victory over Japan Day, surrender of Japan marks the end of World War II in Japan. But it was August 14th in America because of the time zone difference. So in Japan, victory over Japan Day. 1945 as well, on this day, the U.S. wartime rationing of gasoline and fuel oil ends. 1969, on this day, something happened in Bethel, New York, BC. What was it?
69, Bethel, New York.
Yeah, a huge event.
You guys remember? 69?
Woodstock?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Woodstock started on this day. Yep, it was on Max Yesker's dairy farm. And it turned into quite a mess. 2018 on this day. This is crazy. I didn't even know they used fentanyl to execute people, but the first ever U.S. execution by fentanyl in Lincoln, Nebraska. I didn't know they used
What
fentanyl.
year?
Yeah, 2018.
2018.
Yeah, so pretty recent. On this day, in 1984, the #1 song in the country is Ghostbusters by Ray Parker. And then the quote of the day comes from Buddha. And it's, in a controversy, the instant we feel anger, we have already ceased striving for the truth and have begun striving for ourselves. One more time. In a controversy, the instant we feel anger, we have already ceased striving for the truth and have begun striving for ourselves.
True.
That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, thank you guys for being with us. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be
thank
back
you,
next
Brian.
Tuesday.
Been good.
Yeah, really appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon.